Good morning. I went to bed early last night, actually just a little bit after 9. Woke up the first time, somewhat woke up, and I remember rolling over and it was 12 something, but I wasn't really fully awake. Dozed back off, and then when I was fully awake, I rolled over and it was 111. I chuckle because so many times I see those triple numbers. So many times, or double numbers, 44s and 33s and 22s and 55s, one ones, so many times. Anyway, uh, as I got out of bed, just within 15 minutes of that 111, it wasn't even 1:30 yet, I went and got my drink of water, and as I was going to the meditation room, something said, meditate in the bathtub. So I've done that, once in a great while. I've been led to do my meditation in the bathtub jacuzzi. Uh, so I bought a candle in there, and I actually drew the water and sat in the bathtub and had my meditation there this morning instead of in the meditation room. Although I did go back to the meditation room when I came out of the bathtub. Anyway, I've been up for a good while. I could have started at 2:22, but it would have been a rush job, and I wasn't relaxed enough because I had been, you know, I'd only been at the computer a short time. So I stayed here and caught up on emails and stuff like that while I'm waiting for 3:33. There's no way I'm going to do 4:44 today. Today's title is 2012 Dealing with Disappointment. Quite honestly, I'd rather not have to do that, but sometimes it's necessary because that's life. My little blurb goes like this. An Occupy movement event happened yesterday on my behalf. I've gotten different reports from different people, none of them encouraging. It was supposed to be in front of the sheriff's office in Viera. It must be that people went to different places since both reports only indicated 3 people present and neither group saw the other. One report said there was media there representing various local TV stations. As someone who has served the local community freely for years, I admit that I feel very disappointed. What is the best way to deal with disappointment? I see a word in here that doesn't belong here. All right, save it. Anyway, let me say that all the TV stations. Let me read the report that I got back. One of them I got back from a phone call, and the other one was from actually posted on my Facebook page. And Marielle was the reporter, and she said, "Ron, the rally at the sheriff's office was a complete failure. I was the only one there who stuck around. There were 2 others who stopped by that I know of, but left due to lack of activity. As a result, no actual sign waving took place. It was a real shame because the entire local media, all channels, 2, 6, 9, 13, 35, was there covering a case at the same spot, so it could have gotten a lot of coverage. Thought we might see your local supporters there. Very disheartening. Sorry, I tried." Speaking about my local supporters, I've been part of the spiritual community here for a long time. In the metaphysical community, it's been since the early 90s. January 1994 is when I did my first workshop. And I've been very actively involved since that time in emotional healing workshops and just spiritual awakening in general since 1994. I've been doing my metagroup stuff. It started taking on a community flavor in 1998 when I moved into the garage apartment above above Dr. Mary's garage in Merritt Island. That's why I'm doing the Mary Horgan Center. She was my spiritual mentor, my spiritual mom, my non-judgmental mom, I used to refer to her as, since my fundamentalist Christian mom, not toward the end, but oftentimes as I started going into some of these things, considered me sort of off and satanic and stuff like that because she was being fed by some of my other relatives, especially my one sister. Anyway, throughout my life, I've felt a lack of support. But then when I got involved in a really what I thought was a quite tight-knit community of people at the New Way, and I don't really want to keep bringing that up. I thought, well, I finally found home. I finally found a group of people that would stand by and I could support and would support me back. I felt I was a home, it was a family. It was a real deep spiritual, emotional connection. And Margie's part of that family still. And she has been a tremendous support to me over the years. But it's interesting that when I first reached out, when they had sold my home, and I said, I need the support of the community in this thing. One of the leaders wrote back to me, because I posted it on Facebook pages belonging to that spiritual community. And I was told, basically, how dare you ask for our support when you've brought this all on yourself? You've done this to yourself, Ron. Why should we feel sorry for you or support you? And this is the attitude, unfortunately, that I've heard through the grapevine. This is what people are saying in my spiritual community. He brought it all on himself. If he wasn't so into conspiracy theories, none of this would have happened. I'm sorry. But it troubles me how people cannot see. Cannot see. Even my friend Margie tells me that for a long time she thought I was a little bit off too. But she finally took time and listened to me. And then she gets it. And the people that do listen do get it. But so many just turn it off. They don't want to hear the holistic message. And then I get people on Facebook and YouTube, Uncle Joe recently, but others in the past, that are in this fundamentalist Christian mindset that is rigid and locked in. And it's considered a weakness if you admit that you've changed your mind about something, that your belief system has not stayed steadfast and true. I remember my step-grandfather one time, I don't even remember the context in which he said it, but I remember him saying, I was born a Methodist and I'll die a Methodist. I was born a Democrat and I'll die a Democrat. And of course, my grandmother was a Republican. And so it was probably a political thing. And my grandmother was also they were Baptist. That family was basically Baptist and Republican. And my step-grandfather was actually my grandmother's sister's husband, and both of their spouses died and they got married to each other. That's how he became my step-grandfather. We called him Uncle Bob, actually, because because that's what he was. He was my, I guess, great Uncle Bob or whatever. Then he became my step-grandfather. But what I'm saying is this idea of we're supposed to always be locked in to a belief system that we're either born with or that we develop early on, and sticking with that and staying in that rigid mentality for the rest of our lives is considered a mark of some kind of goodness or greatness or something to be admired. And so people come back at me and say, Ron, you've changed your mind. How do you expect people to follow you when you're wishy-washy and flip-flopping on spiritual matters? And we do that to politicians. We're allowed to change our mind. But we do honor Ron Paul for staying consistent. Where is the balance in here? Where is the balance? Now, Ron Paul's consistency is because that's what everybody that's in Congress and everybody that serves the public takes an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. And Ron Paul is a strict constitutionalist, and he's stuck to that because that's the foundation. That's a good thing. But when somebody gets stuck in a religion that says they love everybody, and all they do is go around demeaning people and invalidating people's experiences and their perceptions, how do you call that love? How do you call that love? I remember my aunt, who was a minister, and her husband was a minister. And she said, when I talked to her a few years back, she says, Ronnie, she says, I will say this about you. You always talk about love. Love is the central message. It's all about love. And even her son, I believe, repeated the same thing back to me. That I only talk about love. Why? I've not changed that in all these years. That has been consistent all these years. Since I was a teenager, and probably younger than that. The key is love. The key is love. When a belief doesn't serve love, I let it go because it doesn't serve love. And God is love to me. That's what it's all about. Just like to Ron Paul, the Constitution is what it's all about. If it doesn't serve the Constitution, if it doesn't keep the oath of office, there's something wrong with it. I will let go of all of that. I let go of a lot of the fundamentalist teaching because it wasn't loving, because it portrayed God in an unhealthy way, that God was a vengeful, wrathful, jealous God, and they get that from the twisting or the twisting of scriptures, because I don't believe anybody that knew God would ever say that. Only people that wanted control mechanisms would ever say that. Only people that were themselves deceived would ever say that that's God. It's not the God that I've known. It's not the Jesus that I've known throughout my life. And I'm going to continue even if I have to stand alone. But like Jesus was disappointed when he went away to pray, and he came back and they were all asleep. And he said, sleep on. Another time, he turned to his disciples and said, because many of his followers turned and walked away, and he turned to his intimate circle and he said, will you also go away? Will you also go away? I deal with human emotion the same as everybody else. Well, actually I don't, because I allow it. And I'm not going to put myself down because it doesn't serve love to discredit myself when I feel what others term and what I have termed a negative emotion, whether it's sadness or disappointment or anger, even rage. I don't feel rage very much anymore, but I do get angry. I was upset yesterday when I got the two different reports that said two different things, and the only thing that I could think to make sense out of them is that they weren't in the same place. I mean, the county complex up in Viera is huge. There are several buildings. There might have even been people at two different buildings, although I thought they would have gotten it right. We did have an address. Anyway, I'm not going to belabor the point. How do we deal with disappointment? Honestly. And I'll say that about dealing with everything in life. Deal with it honestly. You don't need to spin it. You don't need to deny it, sugarcoat it, try to make it something other than what it is. It is what it is. Accept it, create with it, and move on. I leave you with this morning, and I thank you once again for the support that I do get from all over the world and from all over the cosmos. Yes. Namaste.